Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Psychic Diaries. I'm Michael Lamport, the narrator and producer of the show Rescue Mediums. And with me, as usual, is the wonderful Jackie Dennison, who is the host of Rescue Mediums and the owner of Feathers Academy of Clairvoyancy in Northwich in England. And we're going to welcome back today the wonderful Samie Cain, who was on a previous episode with us. But today we're going to be talking about some other passions of hers, which are otherworldly things, dragons, and her artwork. So welcome back, Samie.
Hello, and thank you for having me back.
Let me ask the first question then. When did you first realize that there were other worlds or ethereal worlds other than just our own?
Obviously, when I was a child, I was open, and I would see, as I was walking home, I would see feet, only feet, and they would just appear every now and again and walk beside me. And obviously I never spoke about this to anybody because, you know, how to bring it up. So, and again, you know, I spoke before, I had dreams, so I knew that there was stuff I couldn't explain, and grown-ups didn't talk about this kind of thing when I was a child. And then growing up, things, you know, just odd things would happen. I would say I'd met earth angels. You know, at times in your life where you meet somebody and you might have a 5-minute conversation with them, but a look or a line or a phrase will just stick with you. So I've had many encounters with people like that. I've always believed in fairies, absolutely. As a child, I had this fairy wallpaper and I'd get lost in it. But I've never been lucky enough to see fairies.
Oh.
I think on the odd occasion, because I walk Pippin, my dog, every day in the Marbury Woods, which, as Jackie knows, is a very special place. The energy there is just, it's an ancient woodland, and it's close to water. And there's this one little path I go along, and I swear I've heard fairy music or pixie music, something like, you know, it's the kind of what I would call the music of my ancestors. It's like Celtic, you know, Irish kind of 3D kind of music. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it stops you and you're like, where's that coming from? You know, and that has happened quite a few times over my lifetime. And obviously, as I've become more along on my spiritual journey, you know, it's like, I'm like, I don't doubt it, you know, I do believe it. One thing I've learned is you don't invite fairies into your house lightly.
Why?
Well, they are quite mischievous.
Oh yeah.
You know, and people have this real Disney thing about fairies.
Yeah, like Tinkerbell or something like that, right?
Yeah, you know, when, you know, they can disrupt a household, you know, especially if you're not kind to them or you don't leave offerings and stuff like that. So yeah, just, you know, just little encounters along the way. But I would speak to people at Feathers, and people would talk about, you know, dragons, and we never, you know, can't think of the word, but we never disagree with anybody. You know, we're very open-minded, and a few people would talk about working with dragons, and I think, yeah, okay, you know. And I was in my garden looking for ley lines, actually, because I live, there's a church at the end of my road, and there's a Victorian school, and I could feel this energy. So Juliet Feathers told me to get a pendulum out in the garden, and I was out looking, and honestly, I heard sirens, not emergency services, it was female siren song.
Wow.
And again, I'm like,
what did it sound like, Samie? What did it
was
sound
the most beautiful, enchanting sound, and it was like 10 women en masse just singing. You know when Meghan Markle walked into the church when she got married to Prince Harry, and it was all like this, whoa.
Yeah.
It was almost like that, but I knew it wasn't angels.
Yeah.
And it was a warning of something.
Oh.
And I remember telling Juliet Feathers about this, and she was like, oh, right, okay. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, as I was going to bed at night, I kept feeling this energy from the school is just across the road from me. And so one night I thought, right, I'm going to tune into this, you know. And there was a mother dragon and the smaller dragon. And the mother dragon was laid on the roof. And as you look at this roof in normal sight, it does actually give the appearance of a bit of, you know, if you squint your eyes, you could see it. You know, the architecture is lovely. And for 2 weeks, this mother dragon was there on the roof, and this smaller dragon was playing around the playground. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe this is really happening. And I told Julie, and she's just like, okay. And I started a couple of months later on my healing journey. I started to learn crystal healing and that. And also at the same time, I was doing my development. And I must have been meditating nearly every single day. So I was really, you know, up there. And I mean, you were witness to one of these meditations where I don't know what happened, but I was introduced to dragon energy. And all I can remember from this meditation is it complete blackness, but it was like in a movie, you know, when bombs are just going off. It was like fire everywhere. Yeah. And I'm trying to fight this and block this out because I could see this dragon coming toward me. And I'm thinking, no, this is, what I was feeling, I was trying to suppress it, you know. And what I didn't realise until we came out of the meditation, Julie, who was sat next to me, was sending her dragon. And when I described this dragon to her, she was like, Samie, that was my dragon. I was trying to help you. And I was literally blocking it. Yeah. And it took me a couple of days of thinking about this. And it was like, this was me at the time. People were sort of reaching out and trying to help me. And I was like, you know, walls up, you know. So they really have taught me an awful lot. So I didn't invite them in. They sort of barged in to my life. I think you've got to be able to handle that energy.
Well, they're transformational, aren't they? Dragon energy, when you work with dragon energy, it's a transformational time. And, you know, mystical and magical sort of things that they bring in. What have they taught you, do you think?
Well, dragons are very, very misunderstood.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can I just press pause?
You know, my dog's on the loose. I've got my door open. I'm like, fingers crossed.
Well, at least it's not a dragon.
Well, I did ask them to help me today. So you never know, Michael. Oh,
Why do you feel that dragons are very misunderstood?
Well, because people are very scared of them, and they're very...
Yeah.
And I used to be a lot like that. And I mean, the kids probably think I still am.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, I loved that movie because I actually saw it twice, but it's a kid's movie. But it's How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
And I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're not frightened of that dragon because that dragon's a good guy or good girl or good whatever a dragon is.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, for me personally, I relate to dragons because I used to have a lot of anger, you know, and I held on to that, and I would be, you know, and I would burn people, you know, and I remember one meditation, I was walking along this path, and all of a sudden I had this fireball, choo, 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 and I turned round, and there was this 3-headed black dragon, and he was as tall as a couple of buildings, you know. And I remember turning round, and I just remember shouting at him, "You can't burn me, I'm a fire," you know. And it was a real empowering moment, because the next thing, these 3 heads shrunk down to one, and this dragon really shrank in size to the same time size as me. And he put his wing around me and he went, "Right then, we can work together then, can't we?" And we walked off on the meditation, and it was like, wow, you just need to match their energy or their spirit, and they respect you, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really empowering for me, really. Yeah, definitely. I've had some lovely experiences, and when I've needed them, you know, I've just called on the dragon spirit, the dragon energy, and it's come to me.
You do that when you're healing, when you're working with a healing in a healing way, because they can be very healing. They can bring a lot of healing energy, can't they, as well?
Yeah, well, around all this time when they entered my life, I started. I was already doing healing with Hannah and Julie at Feathers. We were doing healing in a trio, and during a healing session, this black dragon barged his way into the session, and he was like, I'm here to help, you know. So now every time I do a healing, whether it's, you know, universal healing, whatever kind of healing, that dragon is always here. Definitely. Wow. He's outside my door.
Do you think, because I know Julie from Feathers is very creative, very artistic, and you are very creative and artistic, do you think the dragon energy works with people who are like that? Or do you think that they can work with anyone? Because Hannah is very creative as well, and so she connects with dragon energy. But do you think anybody can connect?
Oh yeah, because there's not just fiery dragons. There's water dragons, there's, you know, forest dragons, there's ice dragons, there's all kinds of dragons. So whatever element or energy you connect to, you know, there is a dragon for you. Absolutely.
Oh,
so yeah,
I'd like to find my inner dragon.
Well, according to my kids, it comes very naturally to me.
But do you know what? I have seen fairies. I've seen fairies twice. When you said you hadn't ever seen fairies, I have twice. Once when I was a child, and it wasn't like a little tiny little thing. It was quite well, there was more than one of them. They were quite big, and I saw them in my mother's bedroom coming out of her fireplace. I wasn't asleep, I wasn't dreaming, and she had the fireplace in the bedroom, and it came out of there and onto the top of her wardrobe, across the top of her wardrobe, and then the windows in her bedroom are two long ones that you can't open, then the little top opening light, and they got to the top of the window, and which was open, and as they jumped out they grew wings. I couldn't see the wings before that, but this is so so very sort of bizarre, really, because they did have picks and axes, and they, as if they were going, you know, hi ho everywhere with all the tools of the trade, going. And I wondered whether they were fairies or whether they could have been pixies, because they got a purpose, and it was like, why did they come out of the chimney? What, you know, what was their purpose? Had they been working there? Because they got all work tools there, but they weren't covered in soot or anything, which was quite odd. But the second time I saw fairies, they were little tiny, sort of looking gorgeous little things, but they were quite peevish. I was an adult when I saw those, and they
Wow.
were quite, you know, it's like, oh, this is, you shouldn't be here. This is my space here. They didn't speak, but I could hear them.
Yes.
You know, it was funny. So I could hear what they were saying, even though they weren't speaking. But that sort of they did have a tinkling sort of sound to them, whereas the others didn't have any sort of sound to them at all. So I've wondered since whether the ones I saw first were pixies and not fairies. I mean, I don't know. Do pixies have wings even? I don't know.
Well, it reminds me of that wonderful scene in the movie Labyrinth, where the little gnome guy goes around with his squirter and is killing all the fairies because they're so reckless that they're just like destroying the garden, and he's like, I've had enough of this.
They are fascinating, though. I've gone looking for fairies with, in fact, Alison Winrider, myself and Edna Dargy, when we've been filming Rescue Mediums. You'll know this, Michael. When we had any spare time, if we were around any woodland or, you know, that sort of area, we would go and look in the trees, and we'd go and, you know, try and find fairies and leave as well little gifts for them, you know. Little offerings for them.
When the kids were little and I was living in Yorkshire, you know, it's really hard sometimes to get little kids to go for a walk. So that's what I'd say, come on, we'll go look, let's go hunting for fairies, you know. And for a year or so, you know, it's a magical time when they're young and they really believe, you know, in things like that. But I really was, because it was near Cottingley, near Bingley, you know, obviously the famous Cottingley fairies. So I was convinced that I would come across one, but no.
You've got an extra there by the side of you as Pippin comes in.
I knew he'd make an appearance because I've got Pete's here. I'm all alone today, so
home alone. Have you always been artistic, would you say? You know, as a child, were you creating things as a child?
Absolutely. I mean, one of my earliest memories is lying on the floor with a colouring book. I was always doodling, always drawing. I was either going to be a hairdresser or a fashion designer growing up, you know. And I was told a hairdresser would be more steady income. And then obviously I've always used art. I didn't realise I was using it as self-healing. But, you know, if I was in a grump or, you know, whatever, I'd sort of just get a colouring book out, you know, or just doodle. And then when I was married to my ex-husband, he didn't understand creativity or, you know, anything like that. So it was very discouraging. So I sort of tried to suppress my arty side and my spiritual side, because at the time I was going to the spiritualist church. So I suppressed all that, and I mean, it's a real lesson, because I suppressed it for a couple of years and then it all just came out. And I ended up leaving him, moving back to Cheshire, and I ended up enrolling in college as a mature student. The kids were all at primary school by this time. And I was on the foundation course, and I remember the first day stood there, and it was just like, I just remember smiling inside and thinking, this is where I was meant to be. Why didn't I do this when I was 17, you know? We've all got our own journey, haven't we?
Of course.
So that was a year. And then we had, you know, a final presentation and everything. And when I went to get my results, there was a D there. And me, I just expected it D for dunce, or, you know, because when I did my GCSEs, a lot of my grades were D, but that was quite negative, you know. So I remember grabbing one of the tutors and I was like, Mark, what does this D mean? And he went, that's distinction, Samie. And I was just like, and it was genuinely the first time that, you know, somebody recognised that what I was doing was valid. And so yeah, I went to from college I went to university, and I stuck that out for a year or two, and then I realised I didn't really need a degree. What I was doing was actually healing. I mean, this big painting behind, I did this when I was at university. My kid's dad has Huntington's disease, and I found out when I was pregnant with the boys that all the kids would have a 50-50 chance of developing this. So I was really angry about this, you know, and I'd probably shouted and screamed enough. And one day I remember the start of this painting is actually a DNA.
Oh, wow.
Because you can't be angry with somebody. You know, it's not my ex-husband's fault that he's got this hereditary disease. He didn't know.
Right.
And it's a bit like Corona at the moment. You know, our lives are so impacted and it's so frustrating. But it's something that you can't shout at. So for me, this was a real, I mean, it's very dark, which, as Jackie's familiar with my paintings are quite bright and jolly. But this was so cathartic. And I don't think I'd really sell it, because it is, I look at it and I think, God, I can't believe I did that. And at the time, I hadn't met you or started coming to and started on what I call my real healing journey. But this, for me, signifies the start of me taking that step. Is like, right, I can't be shouting at people anymore. I can't be effing and jeffing, you know. I've got to, I can't fight anymore. I've got to transmute that anger into something beautiful. And that is the only way we can heal, really. And it is really hard sometimes. And a lot of people have this view of healing of, you know, just sitting there like a lotus leaf and, you know, with incense burning and but healing can be quite messy and painful, and there's a lot of tears and, you know, throwing paint at a canvas and, you know, getting yourself covered, and, you know, it's great if it worked for me. If you've got OCD, it might not be the right route to go down.
But it is a way of channeling how you feel, isn't it? So whether that is, whether it's anger or frustration, or you've got a story to tell, or even passion, if you're feeling like a passion that you need to do something, you can pour all of that in to what you're doing. So it's not just a case of what colours you choose, but how you explore the design that's there. Because, and that one behind you, there's a lot of like complex patterns, but they're also formulated patterns, aren't they? So it's like you can see the structure of it, which is why you say it's the DNA, because you can see the structure of how it works.
Yeah, And I suppose it's me trying to work it all out in my head, you know, well, I can't speak today, but you know, put it into boxes, I suppose.
Yeah.
And at the time I was driving into Manchester and Salford, so at the time I just thought it was buildings, you know, that was the way I was presenting it to people. But yeah, it is, there's a lot of pain in there, but there's a lot of hope as well. And that's what you've got to have. And if anything, I mean, a lot of people, when they see my paintings, you know, they'll say, oh, they're really cheerful, aren't they? And I'll think, well, actually, I'm a really grumpy person. But by doing these, it's like painting yourself happy, if you know what I mean. It's this is what I had to do. Whereas, you know, if I didn't do that, if I didn't do this, it's a bit like people who go running, you know. It's like, I know the spirit is nagging me at the moment because I haven't done any painting for a while because I've been having building work done, and I've got this, and I know because doing this interview with you, Jackie, so I've got my paints out this afternoon, and I feel like I've been for like a 10-mile run, you know. It's just like letting a valve off or something.
Have you ever painted a dragon?
Yes. I'm actually leaning on one right now.
Oh, let's have a look.
Well,
can we see?
Covered. It's covered.
Oh.
Let me.
What made you paint the dragon?
Well, I know you can't. Can you see his tail there?
Yes.
Tim, my partner, built me this fabulous long desk to work on. And he's got this really nice piece of wood, and it must be about 7 foot long.
Wow.
And I was just going to leave it plain. And then I just looked at it one day and I thought, I can't paint a dragon on it. There's no one to tell me that I can't do it. It's my studio, you know. It's like, why not? So I painted it all black, and then I've got this gold dragon that goes all the way across. Wasn't until I finished it did I realise it's Julie's dragon, the one I was fighting, because he's got turquoise horns, and he's all gold with red bits, and he's got scales on and everything. And then I got a fish tank, and I thought, yeah, because this is the missing element from a studio. And the only place the fish tank would fit is on my dragon's head. So really, I need to paint over him and paint him the other way around. But it was a really nice experience painting him, and I love the fact that I'm working on him. And because I do healing in here in normal times, so I love the fact that, you know, I've got my crystals on him or her, you know. So yeah. They've become quite a big part of my life without realising.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'll just go back to that meditation. I remember coming home and the boys saying to me, oh, did you have a good night, Mum? And I said to the boys, oh, God, you wouldn't believe it. I've been fighting dragons tonight. And they just looked at me and they went, really? And I went, yeah, it was unbelievable. And I think that they are getting a little bit more used to the fact that Mum, you know, has actually got pet dragons, and yeah,
that's great. I think that's great. And because you've got the fish tank on the dragon's head, does that make him partly a water dragon?
Well, it could be, yes.
Yeah.
Or whether he's just neutralising that fiery energy, you know. Because I didn't realise this has all happened by accident. You know, I've got the crystals in here, I've got the wind chimes that I made, I've got the plants, I've got the dragon, I've got all my candles and the fish. So it is everything that I need, really, you know.
You've got all the elements there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do, you know, I do ask the angel of each element to come in and help me when I'm healing.
Yeah.
I don't often do it when I'm painting, unless I'm going through a real creative block. And sometimes, sorry, Jackie.
What about unicorns? Unicorns.
No.
Do you ever connect with unicorns?
No, I've never tried though. I've never thought about connecting with unicorns. I've never seen them in a meditation. I know some people have.
Yeah. Yeah, I've in a meditation I've connected with Pegasus, and you know, gone off on a flight with Pegasus. But I know with the unicorns, and it's interesting because I've had that conversation with Julie, who is into the dragons and things. So she doesn't connect with unicorns.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And you're both sort of arty. You're both extremely psychic. You're both clairvoyant. And you're both artistic, and you obviously both connect with dragon energy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a survey to say.
Yes, that'd be really interesting.
Have you ever connected, Michael? Have you ever seen anything like that? Any sort of elementals, fairies, or?
Yeah, when we were doing it, one of the rescue medium shows in Nova Scotia, I went out to a wooded area with the parent of one of the kids that we were working with, and she said this is the area where she talks with the fairies, and there was a waterfall. I remember this distinctly.
Yes.
And I mean, like Samie said, I could hear some sort of music. I'm not sure if it was the water or if there was, I mean, there wasn't a band playing.
Yeah.
But I could hear some sort of music. And I think, I don't know if I saw any, but I think I felt the presence of fairies.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was very comforting.
Yeah. You know, because there's so much more to this world than what we can see with the naked eye, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, so I never rule anything out, you know, being able to see anything really. And I suppose we take out of it really what we can, and we believe what we can. Some things it's like, that's a bit far-fetched. Like, for instance, if we're believing in other worlds and all having experience, which all three of us seem to have had experiences like that. Samie, what's your thought on sort of extraterrestrial, sort of like aliens, that sort of thing?
Well, I 100% believe in them. 100%. I used to live over in Haworth, West Yorkshire, which is quite close to Menwith Hill, the American Air Base. So I don't know. We used to see a lot of stuff in the skies because there was no light pollution, because we used to drive and sit in the car and watch the stars and stuff like that. And actually down the road, I think it's Todmorden, that's quite a hot spot.
Yeah.
And I've seen quite a few phenomenon when I was living in Yorkshire. Yeah, I don't want to be abducted.
No.
I wouldn't mind meeting one.
Yes.
You know,
just need one down at the pub for a drink.
Yeah. I mean, according to some people, they're already living amongst us, and we might have already met.
Yes.
Met some,
Yeah.
but,
well, one of us might.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, you know, I know you can't believe a lot of stuff you watch online, but I've seen credible documentaries on, you know, like Netflix, platforms like that, where people have been abducted in the 40s, the 30s, you know, a long time ago. And this is the time before internet.
Yeah.
And these people, what they've all said, their stories are all very, very similar.
Yep.
So there's got to be something in it.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'd love to see a UFO. Yeah, 100%. But I don't think I'd like to go for the guided tour upstairs.
But at least it would be nice to know that in this vast universe that we're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because we always think like, okay, it's us against the world or us against the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it isn't. Because we are aliens possibly to some other culture.
Well,
yeah.
I keep seeing like a meme, you know, on social media, and it's some aliens in a UFO flying past Earth, and it's like, oh no, we'll give this one a swerve, or lock your doors, that kind of thing, as if they're driving through a dodgy area. And you think about the way, you know, the way we blow countries up and things like that, you know, it isn't a place where, you know, you'd probably think, yeah, that looks a nice place, let's go and have a wander around there, because a lot of people are quite hostile to strange things or unusual things. So there is a lot of good people, don't get me wrong, and a lot of welcoming people all around the world. But you know, if you're a stranger visiting and you stumble across the wrong person,
or they stumble across a football game and they're in the wrong crowd.
Exactly.
Like, holy Jesus, let me out of here.
Yeah. So no wonder they just pick random cars in the middle of nowhere.
Well, yeah.
You know, I used to, back in the early days before I had kids, I used to have this little old banger, and I'd drive over Oxenhope Moor down into Todmorden. And this was no street lights, you know, a real spooky kind of place. I mean, this is where Wuthering Heights is set, you know, so it's very atmospheric.
Yeah.
Oh God, and sometimes, you know, I'd be driving with full beam and I would just be waiting, you know, like, oh, please don't get me. I've never told that anybody.
So all the thousands of people that are going to watch this will go, oh, yeah, that's what happened to Samie.
I know, but that's like, you know, I'm there, I am driving, fully expecting to be abducted, but yeah, I'm the one person who didn't run. I probably talk too much.
You know, I believe that we have much to learn from other worlds, from the universe and everything, because when I'm channeling healing energy in particular, I connect to the universal energy, you know, so it doesn't just come from one place, it doesn't just come from a particular source, it comes from you know, all around, from any place that it's, whether that's from another world or, you know, I don't know where it comes from, I just know it, you know, I channel that energy and I see it as, I feel it as a light source rather than as an individual person. I suppose it's just different dimensions, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you work with a lot of guides. You probably do, Michael. Our guides come from different faiths as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just one faith. So, you know, I completely get that, you know, that if we're not just going to work with one faith, we're not just going to work with one energy, you know, it's, yeah, I see it as rainbow, you know, like sparkly, like a pearlescent rainbow. That's how I see healing energy. And yeah, just I ask for everybody's help, you know, because it's just like a broad net, isn't it? You know,
yeah, of course.
Whoever wants to come in and help, you know, I'm not going to reject anybody's help.
Yeah, good. Except the fairies that you don't want to invite into your home.
As long as you can play nicely. I have got an iron nail just in case.
You've got what?
An iron nail just in case. Oh, it's a rusty metal. They don't like, do they? So because, you know, this is the artist sort of magpie. You know, found objects you know, I love to keep and then make little things. So yeah, I've got, and I do have them put on a couple of windowsills just in case.
Just in case.
You've got to keep them in check.
Oh, sure.
Well, I did have a spell where I did invite them in, and it was about 6 months where everything went missing.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And I think I remember having a conversation, and somebody said, I think you've got fairies, you know, I think they're playing tricks on you. Because I was asking for help from my guides and stuff like that, but nothing was working. So, yes.
So be nice to the fairies and leave them gifts outside, and let them get on with their job, and we'll get on with ours.
Yes.
And don't be frightened of dragons.
Don't be frightened.
No, and it's like anything. If you, whatever you fear, once you stand up to it, it just shrinks away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid of dragons.
Don't be afraid of dragons. Well, we're not afraid of you, Samie, and I've loved talking to you again today.
Yes.
And we should get some pictures of your artwork, and you know, I can put them at the end of this video, and so people can, so send me some photographs of some of your work, and we'll put it up there and people take a look.
Lovely.
Oh, thank you, my lovely, and we shall talk again.
Yes. See you, Michael. Hope you find your charger.
What?
I said, hope you find your charger.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.